epiphany is, you know what? That's not what keeps you in debt. The small little treats that you buy on a day-to-day basis, well, it does add up. Of course it does. It's not the bulk of the reason you're in debt. I genuinely believe this. The bulk of the reason I carried debt that I could not get out of is I had big debt with repetitive payments. Welcome to another edition of 10 Minutes. This is a ongoing series I have for this channel where basically we don't use sound effects or anything else. I just talk to you for 10 minutes about a topic that I think will give you food for thought. It's not for you to agree or disagree. It's just something for you to think about as I share with you my perspective of money, debt, and finance. Our 10 minutes today focuses on the topic, it's not treats that make you broke. So that's what we're going to focus on today. Let me go ahead and start my timer because our 10 minutes is beginning right now. One of the things that I have come to realize as I look back over my very troubled debt history, it's kind of like, you get an epiphany one day, driving in the car or whatever, and you just like, oh my God, no, I can't believe I missed it. And one of the things that I believe that I really missed is that I focused on the wrong things while I was trying to deal with my debt issues all of these years. It's only been in the last few years, and I'm talking like probably the last 5 especially, where I really feel like I've been able to hone in and not just control my debt, but understand my debt. I think so oftentimes we don't actually work to understand our debt. We simply look to control it. What do I mean by that? Well, to me, controlling debt simply means you're looking at the math. Okay, you're just looking at the numbers. And while that is certainly relevant and we need to do that, I kind of realized over these last few years that there's a whole aspect that we are missing. And that is, why do we focus on the numbers that we're focusing on? In other words, when I look back at my debt history, I realized, and I'd say it's only recently, that I think I focused on the wrong numbers. And I've come to the realization that it's not enough to just look at numbers, but why are you looking at that specific number? Why are you looking at that bill versus another bill? Why is this the number that you're focusing on? Let me explain further. I was raised under the idea, and I'm going to say more social media raised, okay? Now keep in mind I'm 57. It's not like, my parents sat down and told me this specifically, but it was more of an observation being one of the, I won't say poor folk in society, but let's face it, I am a school teacher, okay? I come from a working school teacher family, 3rd generation, okay? And just throughout life, I'd always been raised to look at the little things. How often do you go out and eat pizza? How often do you, go see a movie? Add those small bills up, and you'll find that you're spending hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a year on it, okay? So most of my life, I realized that's what I have focused on. But as I've become debt-free and I have 4 payments left, respectively, on my new car that I'm paying off, okay, my Toyota Corolla Hybrid that I purchased a few months back for $26,000. I'd saved up about $8,000-9,000, and I'm just frantically paying off the balance because I want it paid off by November. I realized, what is it that I've done, that I am doing with money today that's different, that has allowed me to be in this spot? And sure, yeah, certainly getting a little injection from, my late parents helped, okay? But it wasn't enough to make me rich, make me stop working, make me, throw all budget to the wind. I really had to budget, if not even more so, more carefully afterwards, after getting an inheritance. And again, this wasn't such a huge inheritance. As you can see, I live in 840 square feet, okay? But I began to realize that perhaps one of the things that has been keeping me in debt and that perhaps keeps other people in debt, we are trained, those of us who are not in the wealthy class of society, we are trained to look at the small numbers. We are trained to look at things like, how often did you see a movie? How often did you have pizza? How often do you drink your Starbucks? How often do you have your avocado toast? To bring it to more, current things, okay? I think that's all wrong. I really, really do. I think, at least my epiphany is, you know what? That's not what keeps you in debt. The small little treats that you buy on a day-to-day basis, well, it does add up. Of course it does. It's not the bulk of the reason you're in debt. I genuinely believe this. The bulk of the reason I carried debt that I could not get out of is I had big debt with repetitive payments. In other words, I carried a $110,000 student loan that I couldn't get out of. But before getting the student loan, I never said to myself, okay, Carrie, how big is this student loan debt going to be? And how long is it going to take me to pay it off? I never looked at it like that. I never said to myself, what happens if I buy a car? Because, for those who have been following, I had a car repossessed when I was in my very early 30s, like 30, 31, okay? I never said to myself, how many car payments is this going to take me to pay off? Instead, I just looked at things from a monthly figure. Oh, the car's $500 a month. The student loan is going to be, let's just say respectively, I think that was around $400, also $500 a month. But I never stopped to really absorb. Okay, not just a quick glance on a piece of paper, but to really absorb how many years of my life was I going to have to take to pay that debt off. It's the big debts that require repetitive payments. Now, to some people, it may be, well, of course it's the big debt. That's obvious. But I want you to think about something. We are not really trained to look at the big debts, at least from my socioeconomic class. We're trained to look at the small stuff. You're in debt because you go to Starbucks every single morning. You're in debt because you go to McDonald's every single morning for whatever the treat is. You know what I've come to realize? That's not where your debt problem is. Your debt problem is because you live alone in a one-bedroom place, you're in your 20s, you're going broke trying to hold 3 jobs. Why not get a roommate and slash half of your living costs? Yes. Then you can put that saved money towards other debt. Instead of saying, hey, I'm going to go to a really expensive school that, is just the school of my dreams, that's going to potentially commit you to a decade or more, and the decade's a long time, trust me, that's going to potentially commit you to a decade of more student loan and tie up your money. It's not your avocado toast. It's not your donut in the morning, although I don't recommend donuts for breakfast in the morning. My epiphany, as I've been through this debt journey of mine, from married to divorce to broke to 2 bankruptcies to an auto repossession, is I always thought it was that I went to a movie every Friday. I always thought, oh my goodness, I can't buy my, Thornton's Pepsi because that's 99 cents and I do that every Saturday and Sunday. Well, I've spent $8 by the end of the month. That's not where the problem is. It's not your treats that keep you broke. It's the bigger picture. It's the big debts. This is why things like buy now, pay later, I believe, are so dangerous. Because not only does it allow you to accumulate very large amounts of debt, but it hides from you. It's a debt. Buy now, pay later is almost like debts that you can set and forget. The problem is you set it and forget it, and it hurts you. And it can rack you up into months and months of debt commitment. This, to me, I guess I should say, has been very profound in realizing this. It's almost like it's taken what I used to think the problem was, the small things, the treats. You spend $10 a week on your Friday night pizza. Well, you've just spent $40 at the end of the month. Shame, shame, shame. That's $40 that could have gone to an electric bill. You know what I've learned? Forget it. That's not where the problem is. The problem is you want to go to a really expensive school. The problem is you want to buy a really expensive car. Remember, these are things you cannot afford on your individual income bracket. The problem is you demand that you're going to live alone even though you really can't afford it, but you could instead seek a roommate or become someone else's roommate. In other words, we nickel and dime our way. We think nickeling and diming our way through giving up all of our treats and all of our little rewards, $1 here, $5 there, $10 there. You ain't going to get out of debt doing it that way. And I think that for me has been just a huge wake-up call, because now I look at money so differently. I don't focus on the little treats that I buy myself. Okay, so I went and bought a blender for $150. That's not what made me broke. But in the olden days, the younger part of me, the inexperienced part of me, would have said, oh, it's that blender that you bought for $150. No, it's not, because I actually had the cash to pay off the blender. I'm just being hypothetical here, okay? I had the cash to pay off that blender or that treat, and it didn't repeat itself. It's all those big things that consistently repeat themselves that you can't afford, that you commit yourself to, that winds up hurting your budget and keeps you from being debt-free. Just consider that. It's not your treats. My 10 minutes is up, and so is yours. Thanks for listening. Have a great night.